Well, here we are. We're excited to bring you our review of season 46, episode 1 of Saturday Night Live. Brendan Green, along with Joe Wayman, as always, for the Wild and Crazy Guys video podcast.
Two wild and crazy guys. That sums us up pretty well.
I don't think there could be a more inaccurate description of the two of us. However, it is a good Saturday Night Live reference.
It is. And maybe one of the days we'll share the picture that we have of you with two people at the Saturday Night Live Christmas party dressed as two wild and crazy guys.
My hope, and this is a spoiler, this might be released early for our Patreon customers, but my hope is that around Christmas we will actually just do a review of that party and we'll share some of the pictures from that evening. Because it was the Museum of Broadcast Communications here in Chicago did a fantastic job with the Saturday Night Live Christmas party 2 winters ago. Outstanding.
Mm-hmm. It was great. It was fun.
Now, last night, of course, we were treated to Megan the Stallion and Chris Rock on the season premiere of season 46 of Saturday Night Live, and we've got a lot to talk about. I know we had a lot of thoughts on it, so I don't want to demur any longer. Should we get started talking about the cold open?
Right, cold open as expected. The debate was front and center, and even the lead into the debate was a reference to how long ago Tuesday feels, and how, in some ways, painful that debate really was. So, kind of a nod to that, and then opened up as expected. Jim Carrey as Joe Biden I thought was pretty fun. I mean, it was Joe Biden, Jim Carrey, as you mentioned at the preview, a very good method actor. But also he inserted some of his Jim Carrey kind of zaniness that we know from Ace Ventura, from even his days on In Living Color. That was kind of a good mixture of those two things.
I thought that he actually had a lot of good Biden mannerisms down, but I think I think as Jim Carrey does, and this is what you pay Jim Carrey for, this is his thing. I think he just overdid several pieces of it. But again, that's kind of the acting prowess of Jim Carrey. That's what he's known for. I thought, as always, Alec Baldwin was great as the president. We got to see Maya Rudolph for a little bit as Kamala Harris as well.
I didn't quite get what the point of that was, just for reminding us that she's there and doing that. But it seemed kind of forced in. I know she had the great line about kind of referencing WAP, W-A-P, a Megan the Stallion song, with a women as president kind of tie-in. So maybe that was it, but otherwise, I just didn't know why they did that. They have plenty of chance next week with the VP debate coming up this week. I thought it was kind of shoehorned in there, but you know what? Maya Rudolph is never a bad thing.
And I was very surprised that because you had brought up in the preview show talking about Joe Biden using a listening device or PEDs or something to that effect. And at one point, he did put in some headphones, but he was listening to a Harry Styles relaxation tape. I thought that was going to go totally differently. I thought he was going to be communicating with his advisors, but
and you know what? The only real nod to any type of illness with Trump was Joe Biden bringing out the tape measure and moving his podium a couple of feet away. Other than that, I thought it was a pretty mild take on what's going on.
Very mild take and very long take.
Yeah,
I think you could have cut a good 2 to 3 minutes off of that cold open.
Totally.
But I think that's also a good segue into Chris Rock's opening monologue.
Real quick, and you texted me last night. We were watching it. The introduction of the cast members. Some of them had masks on. Kind of a nice little reminder of what's going on. And I thought that was.
I liked the masks in the opening credits. I don't know why. Yeah. I thought it was a nice touch, A, to remind people to wear masks, but B, years from now when people are watching this back, it'll put them in the time period of when this show was taking place.
Yep, totally.
But Chris Rock came out, did his opening monologue. Your point, well taken. Some of those jokes are recycled jokes. They're jokes that he's done in the past. They were not totally new. He seemed a little, and I can understand this because nobody's really been performing. He seemed a little rusty. Maybe some of his timing was a little off. He was tripping over some of his words. Not necessarily the strongest Chris Rock performance I've ever seen.
Right. No, I agree completely. I mean, I know that you get a stand-up comedian, you let them do their bit. Last year we had, John Mulaney did a great job. Dave Chappelle has done that in the past. But Chris Rock, look, he's great. He's a great stand-up comedian, but his stand-up is sort of not really his focus anymore. And so giving him a chance to do some riffing, I thought was a waste of time and a waste of his talents, because it was not, I thought, as good as it should have been. 10 years ago, I thought that could have been better. But for me, for 2020, don't give him that much time to do stand-up, but he's not that comfortable with.
And I think for my excitement level of last night was not so much the host, it was more getting to see what the cast would be doing now that they've had all this time off and they're back in Studio 8H and they're back to kind of normalcy. And so the 25 minutes of the cold open, which really for the most part featured two people who are not cast members, followed by a monologue again of a person who is not a cast member, was too long and was not the way I was hoping for the season to start.
For sure. We then had our first sketch, was kind of a recycled bit, but it's never really gets that old if they get creative with it. It was a super spreader event at the name change office in Pittsburgh. Not sure.
Uh-oh. We may have lost my broadcast colleague here.
People who were trying to have their names changed because they had an unfortunate series of names they were born with.
Now, we will not be mentioning any of the names in this sketch. But certainly, again, if you'd like to subscribe to our Patreon, that's the kind of content we'll give you. But you'll have to go back and watch this sketch if you want to. As Joe said, it's something we've seen a lot before, but when done well, it's pretty funny. It got a couple good cackles out of me. It was fine with me. It was a good way to start the show. Nice and easy laughs.
Now, one name we can say is Jeffrey Epstein, which was Kenan Thompson's character at the end. And this, to me, like, it wasn't that great. It was fine, but like, it more so speaks to Kenan Thompson. You know, this guy's been there forever. He's cemented himself as an all-time cast member, and he's still playing this bit part at the end of a sketch that didn't need to be there, but he still brings the A game, does an amazing job. That's why Kenan is Kenan, because he does stuff like that. And I thought that was just a reminder of what a great cast member he is.
Jeffrey B. Epstein was his name in the sketch.
Right, I did not include the
B.
B. It's important detail and stuff like that.
Yeah. Then we went right into the music video, Bottom of Your Face, which I have to say, I think it's very topical, and I think it's very true because with everyone wearing masks, I know that it's very very superficial, but certainly I think everybody I know has at some point said, I don't really know what they look like because they're always wearing a mask. So it's kind of a funny take on things that are going on right now.
Yeah, and you and I as educators, like seeing our students in the building, like, you know, we don't always know like what they look like without the mask on. It's always kind of a disorienting piece. I thought a funny little line in that was, does she have a chin like Leno? In a long, I thought that was a clever thing. And we have people like that, creative people like that coming together. They had some good lyrics. I mean, it wasn't the funniest digital short of all time, but I thought it was funny, had some solid moments, and again, topical. So to me, that was a winner.
Now, you know, Jay Leno has never spent $1 of his Tonight Show money. His stand-up money. He still does about 100 dates a year, but he's never touched a dime of his Tonight Show money.
Did you spend his money from Doritos chips?
I would think so. And again, this will be a Patreon episode, but the Letterman impersonation of Jay Leno is one of my favorite comedy bits. But
you like that one? That's a good one.
I'm going to try to stay on topic here.
So we then had a sketch in the first, really the first. No, it's not the first. But a sketch in the basement of a young man played by Kyle Mooney. Now, we talked in the last episode about how Kyle Mooney's perhaps spot as the youngster, as the kid, maybe being usurped by this new cast member, but nope. Kyle Mooney is still playing a teenage kid, living in his parents' basement as a teenager. He would, and then Chris Rock playing some type of angel, goes to the future, goes to 2020. And older Kyle Mooney is still now playing video games in his mom's basement.
And he is. It's interesting because one of my friends was just telling me about the new Tony Hawk, so it kind of made me laugh because all he was interested in were the new graphics and how much better they looked. But I think it also was kind of kind of on base with something we had talked about in the preview episode of the kind of sketch where maybe someone's been living under a rock or somebody has been in a coma or something, doesn't know what 2020 looks like. And this was a slightly different spin on that as far as talking about 2020 in the future. But the beauty of it was it was kind of a throwback to some classic Saturday Night Live sketches where the ending was just not at all what you expected, kind of nonsensical, where they took you out of this fantasy land where Chris Rock was a ghost and you were in the future. And it just turned out that his mom had married Kenan Thompson, which I thought was outstanding. Just great.
Yeah. And a side note, Tony Hawk actually did tweet last night how honored he was that his video game got included in that sketch, and just kind of a weird meta moment there. But yeah, it was about just really it was a long plug for the new Peacock show, My Mom Married Kenan Thompson, which,
And
you know what, I'd give it a chance.
oh, I'd watch it. Absolutely. Tony Hawk was not the only celebrity that tweeted about being involved last night, but we'll get to that very soon.
Then we had our first musical performance by Megan Thee Stallion, and if you want to come to a place to hear two middle-aged white men talk about Megan Thee Stallion, this is not it. We're not going to talk about her performance on that. She seems very talented, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, fine by me. I don't know much about Megan Thee Stallion, but she put a lot of energy into her performance. It was very visually impressive, but I'm not a big follower of Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah, I think we should leave that one alone. Maybe our Patreon customers can have a conversation about Megan Thee Stallion.
Speaking of sponsorships, and I don't want to take too long on this, but again, we want to remind you that Dollar Shave Club is a very proud sponsor of the Two Wild and Crazy Guys podcast. Feel free when you make your next order to use the promo code NORM to help support our old friend Norm MacDonald.
That was back to Weekend Update. Back in the studio, Jost and Shay still holding that down. I thought this was a pretty bland update. I thought a lot of the jokes, they stumbled over them. The punchlines weren't great. A couple moments here and there. The two guests were I don't know his name, but Bowen Yang played a minister from China talking about the TikTok situation. That was good. That was all right. I thought that was a decent job. And then A.D. Bryant played is it Carrey Crumb?
It is
seventh grade travel expert talking about the joys of being a tourist in your own home.
Yeah,
it was not bad.
I don't mind Carrey Crumb. I know she's been on several times. That's a pretty good character. She reminds me a lot of. Do you remember the? And I can't remember the character's name, but the young lady who had won the junior high news reading contest, and she would go on with Che and Jost, and she would end it by saying, "And that's in the news." I can't remember her name, but this is what that character reminds me a lot of.
Yeah, I thought she did a good job with it. It's the same thing every time, but it's not bad.
I like Bone Yang. I like Bone Yang a lot. And I also thought, and we talked about this just a little bit before we started recording here, the end of Weekend Update was the only nod to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There was a shot of Kate McKinnon dressed as RBG in the crowd, and she nodded and waved, and there was a title card wishing the best to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I was stunned by that. I could not believe that's all they did. But maybe there's more in the future that I just don't know about.
Yeah, maybe they waited a little bit to kind of let it mellow out before they bring her back in some more capacity. But I was kind of surprised. That was not surprised it happened, but surprised how little it did happen. Yeah. Come on, update. We had Chloe Feynman playing Drew Barrymore on the new Drew Barrymore show. Was that that was before update? My order's all out here. I think Drew Barrymore was after the basement sketch, I believe. Because I think we were both. I was still texting you at that point during the live viewing. So, but it's before update, before Meg Thee Stallion, Drew Barrymore show, played by Chloe Feynman, who also played guest Reese Witherspoon and.
The Drew Barrymore sketch was twofold for me. Number one, it got a Drew Barrymore tweet. She was very excited about it. And two, there was indeed an Ellen reference, as we said there would be. So it was fine. It was fine with me. It's a very good. It's Chloe Fineman does a very good Drew Barrymore impersonation. You got to give it.
Her Reese Witherspoon, her Nicole Kidman weren't great, but I thought her Drew Barrymore was fantastic. And I think her impressions are her thing. I think we'll see more of that as the season unfolds.
I agree.
And then so I must be all off here, but I think next was the NBA sketch.
The NBA bubble draft.
I didn't quite get this. I don't. Well, I didn't. I mean, I guess I get it now. I think about it, but like, it wasn't. It was kind of a very awkward sketch.
It is. I don't want to say I was offended by it. That's too strong. That's too strong. But I think that the timing of I just don't think this type of comedy is terribly welcome anymore. I thought it was pretty demeaning. It was not my kind of sketch. I didn't like it one bit, and I kind of felt like the audience felt a little uncomfortable with it too, because there weren't many laughs of any kind.
Tasteless, which is saying a lot coming from us.
Yeah.
And I thought, to me, the best moment of it was when Kate McKinnon came out. Obviously, Kate McKinnon is lesbian, and she came out of it and kind of looking the part and said, making references to WNBA. That to me was a moment of like, okay, that got me a little chuckle out of me. But the rest of it was like very forced and kind of demeaning. The one positive, I guess, it did get we saw the two new cast members. Lauren Holt and Punky Johnson both got appearances in that sketch.
Yeah, I could have done without that one. It was not a. Yeah. I actually, I would say that everything after Update, really, I could have done without. But
I put UGG. I put UGG in my show notes. Okay. I wrote UGG, which is about how I felt about that sketch. Not great.
Yeah.
And last sketch at least was Stunt People, which was I thought was very 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 odd. I mean, obviously, it was a chance for Aidy Bryant and Kate McKinnon to work together, which is fine. That's great. But I mean, I thought the rest of it was pretty mediocre.
You know, knowing me as well as you do, and knowing my love for Saturday Night Live, the 12:55 sketches are some of my very favorite things. I love them because they're usually nonsensical. This one was just not only nonsensical, but not particularly funny. So I didn't care for it. I thought it was a very, I would say overall, the show ended with a whimper. You know, it just didn't have much of a strong finish. The last two sketches were not my jam. Not my jam.
No. So then up was we did not have a last sketch. We did have one last performance by Meg Thee Stallion. And again, nothing for us to comment on this. She seems very talented, a very good dancer, but I think I'll refrain from comments beyond that.
Yep, nothing here.
So the closing credits, pretty standard fare. All the cast members were wearing masks. For Chris Rock, he said his goodbyes, and once he finished, he did put the mask on. A couple of things I noticed in the closing. The old cast members always pointed to the new cast members, kind of like as a nod to them, like welcome to the club kind of thing. I noticed too, Cecily Strong was not there in the closing credits. She had a very small role in the show, playing Kimberly Guilfoyle, Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend, and famously did the RNC speech. Otherwise, no Cecily at all. I read she was doing some project for Apple Plus right now, produced by Lauren Michaels. So perhaps Cecily is busy with that. But I think that's to me a sign of she is going in different directions for the season.
Yeah, no Cecily. A very little Melissa Villasenor last night as well.
Did she have anything?
I don't remember seeing her in anything.
Yeah.
But I think overall the show was it speaks to something that you brought up yesterday, and that's the fact that it's apparent that the cast is excited to be back. It's apparent that they're happy to be back. It looks like they are filled with energy and creativity. But some of the things just fell flat. But they're ready. They're ready. They're ready.
Yeah, so I guess great time. I'm gonna go B-. I thought it started very strong and faded. Maybe I'm grading a little too generously, but first of the season, I thought the biggest shame was just how I felt rushed, and I thought Chris Rock was used very poorly.
I gave it a C+. C+ was based on really, the timing. I mean, the timing of the show was awful. The last part of the show was a musical performance, which almost never happens. Everything felt like the timing was off or that it was being rushed. But that being said, if your first shot at it is a C plus, I can only assume the next few weeks are A's and B's, which is really good news for everybody watching.
Yeah, I hope so. So let's then kind of transition into next week. We do have it to be hosted by Bill Burr, which I still don't understand what he's done to have this spot. I mean, he is a very well-known stand-up comedian, but to my knowledge, I don't think he's in any upcoming movies. He was in the movie with Pete Davidson this summer, but I don't know. I'm surprised. I have nothing against Bill Burr. I think he's a fine comedian. I just don't. This to me I was a bit surprised by this hosting spot.
Yeah, with total due respect to Bill Burr, who is a funny comedian, I haven't heard his name in about 10 years. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but I look forward to it. We'll see what he has to give
sure.
us.
And Morgan Wallen is the musical guest. He's a country music guy. I looked him up. I know less about him than Meg the Stallion, so that says about everything you need to know about that. This week, of course, had the VP debate. Will be happening on, I think, Wednesday. So no doubt we'll see some Maya Rudolph and see some Beck Bennett as Mike Pence. Otherwise, I mean, as we know now, a week in this day and age, all kinds of things can happen over the course of the next 7 days. But I do wonder how they will handle the evolving health of the presidents. It's a very tight rope to walk.
Well, I think, and again, a week, a lot can happen in a week. We've seen that. But really, within the last 10 minutes or so, there was a report that the president had taken a joyride outside of Walter Reed Medical Facility to wave at his supporters. So I don't know if that'll play in. I don't know. And it's always hard to predict. But I look forward to whatever they're doing with the constantly changing situation here in 2020.
And I believe then the following week there's another show, and then they'll probably have a week off, and then come back for Halloween and post-election is what I would guess. So we do have the next 2 weeks locked and loaded. We'll talk more about the next host and next musical guest on our next show. But I think this was a fine start to the season. Nothing great, but I think everyone's a little rusty. The reps aren't there for. Think of all these people as performers. They've been performing in a traditional sense in a long time. So I'm grading a little generously because of that reason. But I thought it was a fine opening, given everything that's going on. Just I hope that there's an element of the timing and the cadence and the flow of the show get better in the coming weeks.
In professional wrestling, they have a term called ring rust, which is, the wrestler's been off for 6 or 7 months. No matter how much cardio you do, no matter how much practicing you do, there's nothing like being back in the ring in front of a live audience. And I think that's what we saw last night with comedy too. So I think it'll be much better next week. And I look forward to it. Just a reminder to all at home, please subscribe so that we don't have to keep spamming your Facebook and Instagram and Twitter feeds. We have some subscribers already. That's awesome. So thanks for that. And if you're looking to watch replays of Saturday Night Live, make sure you subscribe to Hulu. You can watch it the next morning. And if you subscribe to Hulu, make sure you use the promo code NORM for our old buddy, Norm MacDonald. Joe, any closing comments?
No, but hopefully next week I'll have the closing music maybe ready to go. We could add that little high-tech touch to it, the closing, the piano and saxophone and all that. But this is high-level tech stuff that I just don't feel comfortable doing yet.
No, this is as good as it's going to get. But,
I'm in my son's bedroom right now, so this is really a high volume operation.
This is class. It's nothing but class and technology.
Yeah.
But we will see you again next Monday with a review of episode 2. We hope you've enjoyed this one, and of course, reach out to us if you have thoughts. We'd love to hear them too. Say goodnight, Joe.
Good night, Joe.
All right, we'll see you guys. See you next week.